Oh my goodness. I've been like smiling nonstop since the checkered flag flew. This is... we got a lot to talk about. After an all-star race of all things. Oh my gosh. How's it going, you guys? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. Yes, I just got done watching best all-star race I've ever seen. If I factor in the All-Star Open and the All-Star race itself, this was easily the best All-Star race I have watched in person. I'm just putting this out there now, so any of you watching know kind of where my head's going to be at the rest of this episode. I don't want there to be any confusion here. I don't want there to be any confusion about where I stand on tonight's race as far as how good it was. I'll get to the groovy gauge later, so I'll give it a real score later. But ultimately, this is the best All-Star race I've ever seen. I obviously wasn't born in the early 90s during like One Hot Night and all that classic stuff. I wasn't, I was 4 years old in the early 2000s, so correct me if there was a great one back then that you remember and reminisce fondly about. But this race here tonight, 2019 All-Star race, when I factor in the Open especially, which was maybe the best 50, 60 laps of racing I've ever seen, this was the greatest All-Star race, greatest All-Star night I have ever witnessed as a NASCAR fan. Obviously, you guys feel free to disagree with me. Everyone's gonna have their own opinions, 100%. But my opinion, that's where it stands, and it's pretty strongly there. We're gonna talk more about the top finishers in this race here. Obviously, I'm repping the shirt of the winner. I'm on hashtag Team Larson. This shirt's left over from like 2 years ago, the last time he was really good. So hopefully this is a good luck charm going forward. But of course, I'll also talk more about the race, the aero package. I'll put it on my groovy gauge. But yeah, let's go ahead and start out by talking a little bit first, before I get into the top finishers in the All-Star race, I wanna talk about the Open race. Because that Open race was, like I said, it was the best 50, 60 laps of racing I've ever seen, I think. Not necessarily because the racing was great or the racing was necessarily very clean, which it was not, but it was super aggressive. It was no holds barred, nobody holding back, everybody going for it all, and that showed through. Even in my television set, I'm watching this race from 1,000 miles away, and the energy, the drama, the emotion, the thoughts, the mindsets, it all came through in flying colors. So if we talk about the guys who advanced into the All-Star race via the Open, Stage 1 ended with that beautiful photo finish between Bubba Wallace and William Byron. Byron got the edge. That whole restart, the fact that Bubba Wallace on older tires was able to somehow take the lead for a split second and then lost it to Byron on the final like 100 feet to the finish line was insane. Great drama. I was afraid Bubba wasn't gonna get another chance to make it into the main show, but somehow he found himself at the front again at the end of Stage 2, where he kind of ran Daniel Suarez into the grass to get the stage win, but he won it nonetheless. People got mad at me on Twitter for calling that a dirty move. I mean, I understood it's the All-Star race. I didn't have a problem with Bubba Wallace doing it in this case because in the All-Star Open and everything, I understand that dirty racing is a little more prevalent, and I don't have a problem with that. But objectively speaking, it was still a dirty move. I mean, Daniel Suarez got up next to Bubba Wallace perfectly cleanly, and then Bubba just ran him into the grass. Suarez never had a chance to actually race him. He just ran all four of Suarez's tires onto the grass, which caused him to spin. It was a dirty move from Bubba Wallace, but I didn't have a big problem with it because it's the All-Star Open race and anything goes, really. But people on Twitter were mad at me for saying that because I guess when Bubba does something good, can't criticize it. I'm happy for Bubba. That team needed something good, and they got something good, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a dirty move. I don't have a big problem with it. I'm not judging Bubba Wallace here because it is the All-Star Open race and anything pretty much goes. But it was still dirty. If anybody does that in a normal race, I have a problem with it, and I would hope most NASCAR fans have a little bit of a problem with it too. It's not the best way to race. But that being said, it was super dramatic. Another great finish at the end of Stage 2. Stage 3 was a little more tame. Kyle Larson drove off and got that win. He advanced, and then Alex Bowman, no real surprise there, got the fan vote. So yeah, All-Star Open race was absolutely fantastic. There was differing pitch strategies. It was all fantastic. It was amazing. I can't really say enough good things about the Open race. I was worried, as in years past, that the All-Star race main event was going to be kind of a letdown compared to the Open race. And the first half of the All-Star race was okay. It was good racing. But ultimately, the All-Star race did not let me down at all tonight. So let's talk about it. I want to start by talking about the top finishers in this race, and I'll go down the line and tell you a little bit about their night, some of the drama, some of the controversies, and then we'll put this thing on my groovy gauge. I'm excited, y'all. Quick tangent. I mean, there's been so much positive energy around NASCAR, really the last 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, Talladega was a great race. Well, Bristol first was an outstanding race. Then Talladega was great. Then Kansas was great. And now the All-Star race was great. This positive momentum going for NASCAR has been super fun. TV ratings for Kansas were way higher than last year. Like, I hope the All-Star race did well tonight too. There's just so much positivity around NASCAR. And you guys know me. I like being positive about NASCAR, and I'm even positive when there's bad things happening to NASCAR. So when something good happens to NASCAR, like that has been happening the last few weeks, my energy is off the charts. I know, sorry about that tangent. I'm just kind of crazy right now. But here are your top finishers from tonight. Basically the whole finishing order. There's only 19 cars in here. So there you go, 19 finishers. Let's talk about a few of them. We'll start with the winner of the race, the winner of the $1 million. Kyle Larson hasn't won a race in like a year and a half. He needed this. Chip Ganassi needed this. Kyle Larson started this year off so bad. Bad luck everywhere, bad performances everywhere. And then he's run pretty well the last couple weeks. Had a couple top 5, top 10. So I'm okay, he's starting to run better. But winning this $1 million, winning here in Charlotte is huge for Kyle Larson. I know it doesn't lock him into the playoffs. I know it doesn't give him any points, but it gives him all the confidence, all the good vibes, and money. Most importantly, it gives that team some funding. I know a lot of that goes to Larson, but still, that's good to feel. It's good. It's hard to really talk about this finishing order because pretty much every driver in this field spent some time near the front and some time in the very back. And that was kind of how Kyle Larson was too. The second to last restart, Larson basically drove from 6th to 1st in less than a lap thanks to a big push he got from Kevin Harvick. So that was really what helped give Larson the track position he needed to hold off the field on the final restart ultimately. But ultimately Larson drove a very good race. Cool to see kind of a one-off sponsor, Advent Health on the car. Great paint scheme, really fun. Happy to see Kyle Larson get a win. And he had to hold off some big boys to do it. Kevin Harvick 2nd, Kyle Busch 3rd, Joey Logano 4th. I mean, you're looking at 3 recent NASCAR Cup Series champions, guys that won combined more than half the races last year. So Kyle Larson had to hold off some good drivers to do it. Kevin Harvick in that interesting millennial paint scheme. It looked like he might have had the best car tonight, and then for a little while I thought Kyle Busch might have had the best car tonight, and then for another period of time I thought Logano had the best car tonight. Ultimately they finished 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Larson was able to spring past all of them, but it was fun to see. I'm not going to talk about every driver on this list, but I got to give an attaboy again to Bubba Wallace. Drove an impressive open race, an aggressive open race, but he made it work for the most part. Drove another great race, a much smarter race, I would say, here in the All-Star race to finish 5th. I know it doesn't pay the million, but you got to believe that Bubba Wallace and that 43 team, there's been so many rumors about them recently, so many negative things said about them recently. You got to believe, especially for Bubba, who's been going through some stuff off the track as well, you got to believe this is really good for that team. They got to be feeling great. They go home tonight. I know they didn't win the million, but they got to go home feeling like champions, feeling like winners, and I think that's good for them going forward. That's positive momentum. Hendrick boys, Bowman and Byron get top 10s. They both had to transfer into this race, and like Bubba Wallace, who also started there near the back, and Kyle Larson, who had to start in the back. So it's interesting. The 4 drivers that all transferred in through the open all finished in the top 10. So that's pretty impressive. They all drove very smart races, but they both got top 10s as well and spent some time near the front. My pick, Chase Elliott, fell back late. He was like 3rd on this final restart and then just dropped like a rock. I didn't actually really see what happened to him, but a tough finish for him. He was my pick coming in. Disappointed me, to say the least. But he also led at one point in this race, so that's what I'm saying. Pretty much every driver on this list led at some point, or at least near the front at some point, and also near the back at some point. It was ridiculous. It was unlike any race at Charlotte I'd ever seen. Give Erik Jones some props there. I know he finished dead freaking last, but after putting himself in the wall early on and then getting put in the wall later, he was still limping that car around. He was running in the top 10 late in this race until a tire ultimately blew out due to that previous damage, and that made him finish last. But Erik Jones, I'll give him credit. He didn't quit tonight. He could have quit on lap 20, and he kept going though, and he almost managed to pull off and get a top 10, top 5. So I'll give him credit there. Now let's talk about Ryan Newman and Clint Bowyer. They both finished there in the top 15, but they were not happy at all after this race. When Kyle Larson was doing burnouts on the front stretch, suddenly Fox Sports cut to Clint Bowyer running over to Ryan Newman's car on pit road, and he started throwing punches through the window. You could see Newman through the window just kind of punching back, and you had Bowyer up here punching down, and it's like, what is happening? It was one of the darndest things I'd ever seen in my life, but I never saw the full replay. I don't know if Fox even has the full replay, but apparently the final few laps, Newman hit Bowyer, Bowyer hit Newman, and then on the cool-down lap, Newman hit Bowyer again, and that's why Bowyer was mad and started throwing these punches. Ultimately, as far as on the racetrack goes, I think both drivers were probably just being silly, making mistakes, being overly aggressive, but the aftermath, this fight, as amusing and as entertaining as it was to see Clint Bowyer dead sprint to Clint Bowyer to Ryan Newman's car and start throwing these little like gut punches in there, as entertaining as that was, I don't know what Clint Bowyer was doing, man. He crazy. For one, you can't fight a guy when you still have your helmet on. You automatically lose a little bit of points for that. And two, you can't run up and start punching a guy while he's still sitting in the car and literally can't fight back. You can't do that, man. I get it, it's a fit of rage. You don't want to wait for Newman to take his time, get his belts off, and get out of the car and everything. I understand you want to rush over there and tell him how you feel right away, but man, it just doesn't look good when you're beating up on somebody who's basically in a position where they can't really fight back. Like that, I don't know why. I like Clint Bowyer a lot, but he was wrong to run over there and start punching Newman like that. It didn't make sense. When Newman got out of the car and they started talking, I was hoping Newman would punch him back. I mean, I think Newman owed Bowyer one, but Bowyer didn't take that helmet off, so I don't know. Bowyer lost some points there, in my opinion. You can't fight a guy, one, through the window of their car, and two, you gotta take your helmet off if you're gonna start throwing punches. It's the same issue I had with Michael McDowell a few weeks back at Phoenix when he and Suarez got into a fight. McDowell is the one who instigated the fight, and he was also the one still wearing his helmet. If you're gonna wear a helmet that protects your face, the most important part of your body on a fight like that, you shouldn't be the one instigating the fight. It's an unfair battle. That being said, it was wildly entertaining. Both drivers had negative things to say about each other afterwards, but ultimately I don't think this is going to go anywhere too significant. I don't think this is going to carry over so much. I think both these guys are veterans. They understand how these situations play out. But yeah, the fight was unexpected but wildly entertaining. So now I want to talk about the racing as a whole. We're going to talk about the aero package and that type of stuff first. For this race, they ran the 550 horsepower with the big rear spoiler. You probably noticed the aero ducts, but they also added those hood ducts. You might have noticed they look like nostrils on the front of the cars. That was the new addition to this race, but the 550 horsepower and everything is basically what we ran at Kansas last week, and I think most fans enjoyed that race. It was definitely something we hadn't seen before at a mile and a half. This race here tonight was huge in my opinion, because last week's race at Kansas was really fun for a mile and a half race. I gave it a great score on my Groovy Gauge. I love that race, but I think a lot of people, and I would agree with them, believe that the reason that race was so great is because it was just a perfect situation, perfect conditions. It was night, it was like 40, 50 degrees, which made it cooler. I think all that combined helped the aero package really shine brightest in that race. Coming here to the All-Star race, which is still a night race, but the track temp, or the air temp at least, was in the 70s, maybe even the low 80s at the start. The fact that it was so much warmer, I think a lot of people, myself included, were concerned that this aero package wouldn't do as well, wouldn't produce great racing. But boy, our worries were misguided. Because while this race didn't look exactly like Kansas last week, this race was still one of the best Charlotte races I can remember seeing in my recent memory. Different for sure. Like I said, you had drivers coming back to front. There was a lot more bump drafting, especially on restarts especially. It was amazing. It was different. It was not what I'm used to at Charlotte. Still a momentum race, which I talked about at Kansas last week, and it's still something I'm not sure I'm sold on. But Charlotte here tonight, as much of a momentum race as it was, I'm getting closer and closer and closer to buying into this aero package completely. And I don't want to say completely in the sense you guys are thinking. Like, I don't want this package at every track. I think I agree with what Kyle Busch said a few weeks back. Racing this type of package with the bigger rear spoiler and everything at Dover or Martinsville or Richmond doesn't make a lot of sense, and I don't really like it. It doesn't help the racing, and it's not a good thing. But at intermediates, man, I can't think of a single intermediate race this year that this package has made worse. I can only think of 3 or 4 examples where this package has made the racing significantly better. Texas, Kansas, Charlotte, off the top of my head. Atlanta, Las Vegas are arguable. Auto Club, I think it just looked the same as any other Auto Club race. So ultimately, this aero package at the mile and a half, at the 2 milers, has been a success. I think it's been an undeniable success for NASCAR. That's what they built this package for. They built it because they knew the mile and a half the last couple of years had been lackluster, more or less. So that's why they built it. They built it to improve the mile and a half races, of which there are many on the schedule. And it has done just that. It's made me look forward to mile and a halves. I'm looking forward to Chicagoland now. I'm actually looking forward to the next Kentucky race. I'm looking forward to Kansas later this year. Normally, I would not be looking forward to those races. I'm still looking forward to Bristol. I'm still looking forward to Martinsville later this year, Daytona in the summer. I'm still looking forward to the races I'd usually look forward to. But now I'm also looking forward to Kansas and Texas and Las Vegas. And I think for that, NASCAR deserves a lot of credit, that they have me now looking forward to races that in the past I would have dreaded. I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. I'm not saying this package is perfect. I'm not saying this package is necessarily the way of the future. For mile and a halves, maybe. I'm almost bought in enough to where I think this package could work going forward at mile and a halves. I still don't like it at short tracks. I'm not sure about 2 milers, but mile and a halves, I like this package, and I'm starting to get closer to hopping on the bandwagon and saying this is the way of the future. I'm not quite there yet, so don't jump on me yet, but you can't deny. Kansas was outstanding. Tonight was outstanding. And it's, the drivers are one thing. Drivers are being aggressive, that's great, but it's the package that's allowing them to be this way. And I think NASCAR deserves credit for that. But anyway, yeah, talking about the race itself, the Open was fantastic. It had literally everything you could want in a NASCAR race, and it did it all in like 60 laps. It had crazy restarts, it had tempers, it had controversial finishes, it had photo finishes, it had underdogs winning. The Open race had everything. And the All-Star race started out kind of slow, but still had some good battles. The All-Star race finished it off. It was the icing on the cake. Restarts were outstanding. Comers and goers throughout. A little bit of pitch strategy here and there. You had underdogs up front. You had superstars up front. You had a guy who hasn't won a race in almost 2 years finally get out there and win a big race for his team. You had the fight after the race. This race literally, just this whole night, had it all. It was the best night of NASCAR racing I think I've seen. I was about to say ever. That's not true probably, but close. We're getting there. It was insane. Let's pop this thing on the Groovy Gauge. Yeah, it's that time of the night. Oh my God, we've been on such a good roll of races lately. I mean, Talladega I already said was amazing. Bristol was amazing as always. Kansas was amazing. I'm running on. This Groovy Gauge, man. I'm about to go off the scale at this point. I can't believe I'm doing this. I really can't believe I'm about to say what I'm saying. If I'm going to focus on the All-Star race just in itself, just the 85 lap or however long it was All-Star race, it's probably a little lower. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to factor in the All-Star Open and the All-Star race because they both happen on the same day. Some of the same drivers raced in both. I think they go together in a lot of ways. The Open and the All-Star race combined, I'm combining them. It's a 100% on the groovy gauge. Yes, yeah, that's a round of applause. That is, yes, a standing ovation of sorts. Yeah, I gotta give it, if anything's gonna get a perfect score, we've been so close. Talladega was amazing. Bristol was amazing. Kansas was amazing. Something has to get a perfect score at this point. I think I gave like Kansas or Bristol or something. I think I gave it a 98, or Talladega, I think I gave a 98. Something's got to get a 100. All-Star race, it's a 100. I know. I didn't expect this early in the year. I thought we'd have to wait until like Bristol night race or something to possibly get a 100. But nope, here we are. I'm giving Charlotte, a race at Charlotte Motor Speedway, a perfect score. Because it was perfect. Again, I'm factoring in the Open and the All-Star race main. If I just focus on the main All-Star race, I'd probably give it like a 90, 95. But with the Open included, it's a 100. What can I say? Some of you guys are probably going to disagree. I completely understand that, but this was a perfect race. It was amazing. Everything you could want as a NASCAR fan. I loved every second of it. Anyway, yeah, that's going to do it. A lot of emotion in this episode. I mean, I talked about the drivers, I talked about where they finished and everything, but there's just a lot of emotion here because that's how this whole night felt. I did that live reaction to it, which a lot of you guys tuned in for, and I appreciate that. I hope you had fun watching along with me, and you heard a lot of these thoughts then as well. It was just a fantastic race, and I'm loving this positive momentum, these positive vibes that have been coming NASCAR's way the last few weeks. Hopefully they can continue. I'll keep my fingers crossed, but another fantastic race. Congrats to Kyle Larson. Big win for Chip Ganassi Racing. Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, continue the conversation over there. Those links are down in the description. Remember also, if you want to send me some stuff to my P.O. box, you have until May 25th to mail that. Link to that is all down in the description of this episode. I appreciate it. Of course, if you send me something, I'll show it off and shout you out in an upcoming episode. And of course, big thank you to my Patreon supporters. Shout out Michael Harrison, at G was the Stars, SelfishGifts.com, Mentally Defective, Cameron James, John Koblenz, Jason Arlong, Wesley Donaldson, Isaac Dennison, Mika Suzuki, iFantasyRace.com, TheRacingInsiders.com, and the rest of these amazing Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support me, support this channel, support this show. I really appreciate that. Couldn't do this without you. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll have another episode up probably Monday or Tuesday, maybe sooner if there's a big bombshell, big news report. Of course, I'll be talking about it. Tomorrow I got like nothing going on, so we'll see. Maybe I'll make another video then. Who knows? I've been on a roll lately. NASCAR's been on a roll. I love it. Oh, I'm just so happy. I'm so excited. It's been such a fun season. I really wasn't sure. I was worried this season was going to be a dud and all the trolls were going to come out of the woodwork talking again about how NASCAR has really died, it's hit rock bottom. And the complete opposite has happened. We've had ratings go up, races have been amazing, this aero package has actually been a success at some tracks. It's been fantastic. I hope we can keep these positive vibes going, this good momentum going. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you very, very soon.